What's going on, guys? J-Pot here, bringing you a Fantasy 2016 Draft Kit video. You can call this a vlog, you can call this whatever you want, but I am going to show you my draft kit. This is my secret to winning fantasy football. And just before we get started, I got to put out a disclaimer, okay? I have played fantasy football for many years, and last year was one of my best years. And we'll talk about that, but I'm going to give you the secret to success. I'm going to show you how to put a draft kit together. Okay, today we're going to be discussing the following: quarterbacks, tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, defenses. When do you draft them? And I'm going to explain to you a system that I came up with to ultimately help you decide who you're going to be choosing on draft day. Now, this is a number system, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and explain to you real quickly how I did this. But for starters, we have three sources. We have Matt Berry at ESPN. We have Fantasy Pros. And we have Ryan Fowler over at Fox Sports. Now, we're going to take a top 10, okay, as a default from ESPN. The top 10 rankings for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, all active positions in fantasy football. Now, we're going to break down the numbers. We're going to see the spreads from Fox Sports to Fantasy Sports to ESPN, and we're ultimately going to get an average, a consensus on the players that we would like to see go in our lineups on draft day. And then to wrap up today's video, we're going to go over the mock draft that I did, and I was quite surprised. It was pretty wild. And I do this every year, okay? I come up with a draft kit, and this draft kit is a few pages long and highly detailed, but the point I'm trying to make here is I have a process that I do every year, okay? I am the Rain Man of the fantasy football, and I've got a lot of favorites out there, including Michael Fabiano. He's one of my favorites. He's got a lot of credibility under his portfolio as far as fantasy picks and whatnot. Now, I'm big on picks, matchups, wind conditions, temperature, dome, outside. There's a lot of matchups that go into fantasy football. A lot of people think you just pick it and you set it and that's it. No. If you want to win, I'm going to show you the tools to do so. Now, before we get started into this awesome breakdown of quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, from all the above, I have to take a sip of my beer. So everybody at home, please join me in a beer while we go over my draft kit. That is delicious. Okay. Yes, as you can tell, I am a Colts fan. Colts blue. Yes, sir. I bleed blue for you. Now, we're going to start off things with the quarterbacks. Okay? We're going to go over the top 10 quarterbacks from ESPN's Matt Berry. Number 1, coming in, no surprise, Cam Newton. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and Andrew Luck, rounding out the number 3 and number 4 spot. Yes, Andrew Luck is number 3. Quite surprised on that. Last year, it was a snafu. He lost a lot of people their championships because, Andrew here, you know, he's the size of Cam Newton and can run just as fast, but he treats his body like he's a linebacker. Andrew, you're not a linebacker, man. We need a quarterback for the whole season. But you don't want to hear me ranting and raving about the Colts. Now, number 4, Russell Wilson. Number 5, Tom Brady. Number 6, Drew Brees. Carson Palmer comes in at number 7. Ben Roethlisberger at number 8. And Eli Manning at number 9. Last but not least, Phillip Rivers from the San Diego Chargers at number 10. Now, we went with ESPN's Matt Berry's top 10, okay, and I'm using that as a default for all active positions. I'm using ESPN as a default. Now we're going to compare these numbers. We're going to get a spread. We're going to get a consistency. It's going to show up and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, Cam Newton, number 1 over on ESPN. He's also number 1 over on Fantasy Pros and Fox Sports. So we'll say ones across the board. Cam Newton is the guy that everybody's going to be after. When do you want to draft or when do you want to draft a quarterback? I'm going to tell you when after we talk about the spread of the numbers here. Don't be the asshole that picks a quarterback in the first round. Please, I beg you, don't be that asshole. All right, now Aaron Rodgers, No surprise, number 2 over at Fox Sports and Fantasy Pros. So Cam Newton and Aaron Rodgers, 1s and 2s across the board. This is where it starts to get interesting. Russell Wilson, we got a 4-3-5. Okay, that's a 4 over at ESPN, a 3 position at Fantasy Pros, and Fox Sports thinks Russell Wilson's a number 5 spot. Tom Brady, this is pretty wild. 5 over at ESPN. Fantasy Pros and Fox Sports has him at an 11. Now, I think I know why that is. That's because of his 4-week suspension. Okay, moving on to Drew Brees. Pretty consistent right in the middle. 6-5-6. Now, I had Drew Brees, a part of my championship team last year. We're going to talk about my draft team and how I won. I had a horrendous season of plagued with injuries and suspensions and awesome trades with poor performance from players. Moving into the number 7 spot. This is pretty cool. Carson Palmer, 7s across the board. Ben Roethlisberger, 8-6-3. He's got a 3 spot coming in from Fox Sports. Eli Manning, not surprised, 9-8-9. Rounding out the back, Phillip Rivers, a 10-10-13. Now, do you guys understand where I'm going with the number spread? These are going to give you a consensus of when you're going to want to get this player. Okay, what position do you want to get them? Because when do you draft a quarterback? I think that is the biggest question for people. And I'm going to give you a scenario. Okay, I'm going to give you a scenario. The first 5 running backs go. Okay, and then the 6th person grabs a wide receiver. Okay, you want to follow the serpentine belt. That's what you want to do, because it goes 1 to 10 and then in reverse order, and that's how drafts work. It's working as serpentine. So if you're in dead last, if you have the number 10th pick, you also have the number 1 pick. Remember that, folks. So use that. If you're in number 10 and running backs and wide receivers went across the board, okay, that is a great move for you to grab a bottom of the barrel running back, and we're going to segue to running backs and who is going to be the biggest sleeper running back of 2016. I got that answer for you. Now, when you get to the bottom of the barrel and you're in the number 10 spot and you got a number 1 pick coming up, so say the running backs are pretty much gone, okay, and we're going to do a lot of different scenarios because I'm going to give you guys my tools for success. Now, you get down to the 10th spot, and say there's a Jamal Charles or LaShawn McCoy or even a, God help me, a Devontae Freeman still available, pick them up and then grab Antonio Brown or OBJ, and this could be roles reversed. It could be wide receivers in the first round, and then it could be running backs. I have a mock draft here that I'm going to show you that kind of shows you how wild and sporadic drafts can be. And this isn't an automated draft. This is a live draft of actual people drafting a draft that are going to play it through the whole season. Not me. I use them as a mock draft. So we have our quarterbacks rounded out. Okay, Cam Newton, Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck, really holding strong at the top 3 position. The Indianapolis Colts were Vegas favorite last year with Andre Johnson, a great backfield with Frank Gore. Frank Gore did a great job. Andre Johnson was obviously a decoy, but yeah, we're not talking about the Colts. One big tip I can give you is do not draft as a fanboy. Do not draft your team's players, because you will have a heart attack on that Sunday, okay, when your fantasy players are going, but half of your fantasy players are on your favorite team. So in other words, I don't want to draft T.Y. Hilton. I don't want to draft Andrew Luck. I don't want to draft Frank Gore. I don't want to draft any of them because it's a conflict of interest, guys. You lose, you get a narrow scope of mind of reality, and you lose scope of the goal. You get sidetracked with your team, and on that Sunday when your team's playing like shit, your whole fantasy's playing like shit. So do not draft your fanboys. Moving on to RBs. Adrian Peterson, no surprise, coming in at the number 1 spot at ESPN with Matt Berry. Real surprised here, Lamar Miller of the Miami Dolphins, number 2 spot. Todd Gurley, man, coming in at the number 3 spot. David Johnson, thank you, David. You single-handedly won me in my playoffs of Fantasy 2015. Ezekiel Elliott, coming in at the number 5 spot over on ESPN. But guys, you got to be conscious-minded. He's got a hamstring injury. He's already taken this week off, you know, so keep in mind with that hamstring. Le'Veon Bell, number 6. Le'Veon, I'm disappointed in you, man. Oh, I'm sorry, J-Pot. I can't lay off the bud, man. Dude, you're such a talented football player, and you single-handedly almost ruined my fantasy playoffs last year. And truth be said, NFL players hate fantasy football. They feel like pit bulls in a pit dog fight. You know what I mean? They feel it's objectifying to these guys to support what we're doing, because we're betting on their wellness and we're betting on their overall performance. Okay. And if these guys don't live up to it, oh man, you ruined my playoffs, man. Thanks, man. How does that make that guy feel? But I will say, Le'Veon Bell, there's nothing wrong with you, dude. Just lay off the bud, man. You're such a talented football player. You keep pissing it away, man. I mean, I even picked you up last year with your 4-week suspension, and I did it really smooth. We're going to talk about my draft throughout this video, but yeah, man, it's disappointing. You keep getting busted for pot, man. It's really, really disappointing. You're on the trading block with the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, man. Get your shit together, Le'Veon. All right, moving on. Number 7 spot on ESPN, Mark Ingram of the New Orleans Saints. This guy is going to be your sleeper. He is going to be your sleeper. If you got bottom of the barrel, monkey shit pick, and Mark Ingram is still there, pick him up, because J. Pot says so. I'm dead serious. He is going to give you a stellar year this year. Guarantee it. Jamal Charles coming in at number 8, LaShawn McCoy at number 9, and Devontae Freeman at number 10. I think I was one of the very few that actually picked up Devontae Freeman in my league last year, and I actually traded him away early because he was in that committee back with Tevin Coleman. Point is, stellar year, Devontae. You're going to have another great year this year. People, if he's available, snag him up. Now, let's spread the numbers across Fantasy Pros and Fox Sports. Adrian Peterson coming in at a 1-3-3. Fantasy Pros and Fox Sports think AP should be drafted in the number 3 spot. Lamar Miller, this is interesting, a 2-5-6. And yeah, that's a little more respectable. Todd Gurley, a 3-1-1. I mean, if it's up to me, I'm going Gurley, man. David Johnson, a fantastic RB2, 4-2-2, fantastic. Ezekiel Elliott, 5-4-5, and I think he's got these inflated numbers because of his hamstring injury. Now, Le'Veon Bell, rightfully so, a 6-7-8 with your 4-game suspension. Mark Ingram, 7-9-9. Now I'm telling you guys, Mark Ingram is going to be the sleeper of 2016. LaShawn McCoy, a 9-11-10. Coming across with Fantasy Pros and Fox Sports. Devontae Freeman, last but not least, a 10-8-4 from Fox Sports. So, well-rounded. A couple of the things that really stick out at me are a couple of the sleepers. The Mark Ingram and David Johnson. Okay, we saw what David Johnson was capable of doing last year, and it was just a committee back with Chris Johnson, Chris Ivory, you know what I mean? And David Johnson, he got the punt returns and the kickoff returns, and you know, he was stellar, phenomenal. So hopefully he gets the rightful touches that he deserves this year, because towards the end of the season, in week 13, 14, 15, I was hurting on running backs, and I'm going to tell you why I was hurting on running backs, because of some bad trades and some bad performances, and David Johnson and Tim Hightower ultimately won me my championship. Now, moving on to our wide receivers, and this is everybody's favorite. You know, there's a lot of talk about who gets the most points, wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks. I'm going to have to say running backs personally, because you got your every down back, you got your down the hill run, you got your receiving out of the backfield, you got your dump offs, you've got your goal line carries. Running backs are going to be your most productive active roster spot. And this draft kit can be set up for flex player spot, a spot you can set it up with a 3-man wide receiver spot. Whatever you want to do, it still works. It's the numbers. This is what you want to pay attention to. Let's get started with the wide receivers. Matt Berry over at ESPN. We're using ESPN as a default through the whole thing. Antonio Brown, no surprise, number 1. Odell Beckham, number 2. Julio Jones, and number 3. DeAndre Hopkins, number 4. Jordy Nelson from the Green Bay Packers. It was unfortunate what happened to him last year, and seeing James Jones come in and carry all the weight. Randall Cobb, seeing him not do a goddamn thing, but that happens. Dez Bryant, you disappoint me. Every year disappoint you. I'm not wasting my time on you anymore, bro. AJ Green, number 7. Allen Robinson, number 8. Demaryius Thomas, number 9. And Brandon Cooks at number 10. Let's spread the numbers. Antonio Brown, no surprise, 1s across the board. Odell Beckham, no surprise, 2s across the board. Julio Jones, 3s and 2s. DeAndre Hopkins, all 4s across the board. Jordy Nelson, 5'8" and 8. Now that number 5 is a little inflated coming from Matt Berry at ESPN because he didn't get to play last year. So he's going to be hungry. Aaron Rodgers is going to feed his ass the ball. Now, A.J. Green and Dez Bryant coming in at 6s and 7s. And Allen Robinson, 8, 7, and 6. There's your sleeper from Jacksonville Jaguars. Blake Bortles, he's got the system down. The reps are there with the players. Allen Robinson is going to be your deep threat this year. He's going to be racking up 30 burgers. I can see Allen Robinson getting at least 8 to 9 touchdowns this year, at least. Moving on, last but not least, Thomas, excuse me. 9, 16, and 15. Look at the spread on those numbers. Fantasy Pros got him at 16. Fox Sports got him at 15. Why is that, folks? Is that because Paxton Lynch, the new starting quarterback? That's a shame. What happened to Brock Osweiler? Now, Brock Osweiler, what came in of the 2013 class with Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, Ryan Tannehill, and Brock Osweiler, and was it Kaepernick? I think there's 5. So Kaepernick, no, it was RG3. Kaepernick was the year before. And where's RG3 lately? The son of a bitch, he robbed Andrew Luck of his freaking Rookie of the Year. Still pisses me off to this day. Look, washed RG3. But yeah, Demaryius Thomas, 9, 16, and 15. Probably because nobody's really, because Ryan Fowler of Fox Sports, Fantasy Pros, and Matt Berry are all pretty confident that Paxton Lynch is going to take a while to really get used to the system. So that's why they got their number 1 deep threat in Demaryius Thompson. I don't know how many times I'm going to do that, guys. I don't know how many times I'm going to do that. 9, 16, and 15. Brandon Cooks from the New Orleans Saints had a rough start to last year with Drew Brees, but man, him and Drew really topped the season off with I think it was 8 touchdowns for Brandon Cooks. So look for the same this year, if not more. 10, 13, and 14, a great sleeper in your draft. If you got a late pick and you're looking for a receiver, Brandon Cooks, be looking out for him. Let's run over to one of my favorite positions, the tight end slot. This slot is so much fun, okay? Because sometimes I like to go back-to-back tight ends because I'm in a flex spot league. I'll play Delaney Walker and I'll play Travis Kelce. You know, if you got good matchups, I've done that before, and I've gotten 25 points from each of them. 50 points just for a couple tight ends. Number 1, across the board, no surprise, ESPN's Matt Berry, Fantasy Sports, and Ryan Fowler over at Fox Sports think that Rob Gronkowski is your number 1 tight end this year. I think he will be, at least for not the first 4 weeks, because Tom Brady is not going to be there. So that is literally 17% of the season gone from Rob Gronkowski's production. And I will say, Jimmy Garoppolo, he might have some opportunities to dump the ball off to tight end. And no better player to dump the ball off to than Rob Gronkowski. His hand is like this. You know what I mean? It's huge. Have you ever seen that man's hands? They're huge, man. All right, let me take a swig of this beer. You guys want to take a swig? Damn, that was so good. I'm gonna have a second one. Moving on to the number 2 spot, Jordan Reed of the Washington Redskins, Kirk Cousins. He's so clutch. You like that? You like that? You know what I'm saying? Kirk Cousins going to do it again this year. Watch him. He's going to be a great sleeper quarterback. Greg Olsen, number 3 spot. Delaney Walker, number 4. Travis Kelce, number 5. Kobe Fleener, number 6. The late and great Kobe Fleener had some great chemistry with this guy, Andrew Luck. They went to Stanford together. They got put through the Colts together, but the production just wasn't there. Kobe, you had a lot of opportunities last year and you pissed them away. I can bet safely that's why you're over with the New Orleans Saints. But I commend you because you saw how productive Jimmy Graham was for the New Orleans Saints with Drew Brees. So hopefully, Kobe, you really get the time to shine as a tight end because I know you and your Goldilocks hair can really shine. Now, moving into the number 4 spot, Delaney Walker, Travis Kelce, Kobe Fleener, Tyler Eifert, number 7. Gary Barnidge, an up-and-coming sleeper out of nowhere last year for the Browns. Zach Ertz at number 9 and Zach Miller, number 10. These last couple tight ends, the spread is pretty wild. Excuse me. I'm ignorant. I'm from America. Apologize about that. Now, so Rob Gronkowski, 1s across the board. Jordan Reed, 2s across the board. Greg Olsen, 3s and 2s across the board. Delaney Walker, 4, 5, and 4. Do not count Delaney out. He saved me in my season last year. okay, single-handedly. I had Travis Kelce and Delaney Walker. I picked up Travis Kelce in the 5th round of my live draft, and the first quarter of the season was great, but I don't know what's going on with Alex. You know, I don't know what's going on. He can't throw the deep ball. Yes, points across the board. Travis Kelce, 5, 4, and 7. Kobe Fleener, 6s and 9s. Tyler Eifert, 7s and 5s. Gary Bardage, 8s across the board. Zach Ertz, 9, 10, 8. And Zach Miller of the Chicago Bears, tight end slot. And mind you, Jay Cutler lives in the town right next to me. I live in Huntingburg, Indiana, and he is from Santa Claus, Indiana. Literally, it's 15 miles that way. And I kicked your ass in high school, Jay Cutler. So many times I sacked you, man. I was a middle linebacker for the Southridge Raiders. He was the starting quarterback for the Heritage Hills Patriots. And they kicked our ass every year. I'm not going to lie, Jay. Yeah, you kicked our ass every year. But, man, it was good. It's gratifying knowing that I sacked you a few times. And Zach Miller, 10, 18, and 17 for Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler's tight end coming from Fantasy Sports and Fox Sports at a 17 and 18. That's a pretty hefty spread. So what does that say to you? I would stay away from Zach Miller. I mean, I would pick up Jason Witten, okay, and I don't even think he's playing. Moving on. Defenses. We're not going to do kickers because kickers are players too, all right? You're absolutely right, Rich Eisen. You're absolutely right. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a kicker last year that put up a 30-burger. Do you guys remember that? The first ever kicker to put up 30 points. I don't remember who it was. Participate, conversate down below. I would greatly appreciate it. I don't remember who that kicker was, but he put up a 30-burger. It was awesome in fantasy football. Number one spot. No surprise. The reigning Super Bowl champions, the Denver Broncos. Number 1, Cardinals. Number 2, Cardinals, I salute you. You single-handedly also won me my fantasy football of 2015 championship. I used you all season. The only time you went on the bench was for a bye week. And you got me Tyrann Mathieu, the Badger. You were clutch, bro. The entire organization on the defense, the special teams, Arizona Cardinals is going to be my number 1 defense this year. I'm probably going to go for the... And we're going to talk about when you draft certain players here in just a little bit. Let's finish the numbers here. Seattle Seahawks, a 3. We got him in the number 3 spot for ESPN, but we're going to come back to him here after a while. North Carolina, number 4, Kansas City Chiefs, number 5, Houston Texans, J.J. Watt, number 6, Los Angeles, number 7, Minnesota, number 8, Dolphins, number 9, and the Jets at number 10. Now, let's spread the points. Broncos, 1, 2, and 4, coming from Fantasy Pros and Fox Sports. Cardinals, number 2, 3, 2, Seattle Seahawks, 3, 1, and 10. Yes, I said it. The Legion of Boom. You are a 10 in the eyes of Ryan Fowler over at Fox Sports. Tweet Ryan Fowler, you're a douche. Now, Seattle Seahawks, fantastic organization. Pete Carroll and everything he does there. The Super Bowl champions. They would have been 2 years in a row, right? But they just kind of gave it to that Malcolm kid from Patriot. Do you guys watch The League? You know the TV show The League? If you watch the intro to season 7, Marshawn Lynch and God dang it, who's the dumbass on the show? Paco. I don't remember. The real dumb airheaded one. I don't remember his name. Correct me down below. But him and Marshawn are on the beach, and the other guy comes up, hey, toss me a beer. And he's like, all right. And then Marshawn's like, dude, just give it to me, and I'll just walk it right over there. Just give me the ball. Obviously, the whole point of that league intro was a mock of the Super Bowl biggest bonehead in play ever made in the NFL. And that season opener of the league with Marshawn Lynch, watch it. It's so funny. It's on YouTube. Go YouTube. It's hilarious. Now let's spread the points here. Seattle coming in at number 10. Carolina coming in at 4 and 1. Fox Sports got North Carolina defense at the number 1 spot. That's really okay. Kansas 5, 7, and 5. Houston Texans 6, 5, and 8. Yes, JJ. Ryan Fowler also hates you. Los Angeles 7, 6, and 6. Whatever happened to Jadavian Clowney, that first round draft pick? What was his name? Jadavian Clowney. Is that his name? Yeah, he busted his ACL. It was like his first game, and then didn't do shit last year. I mean, I thought I don't know. He was a waste of a pick, or slowly molding into that defense. The LA Rams 7-6-6, Minnesota 8-9-9. The Dolphins, Ndamukong Suh, I'll step on your nuts. Coming in at number 9 for Fantasy Pros, number 17, and I'm not surprised with Ryan Fowler at number 23. Yes, Ndamukong Suh, Ryan Fowler hates you too. So New York Jets number 10 and 10 and 22. Philadelphia Eagles, this is interesting. Matt Berry's got the Eagles at number 24 spot. Fantasy Pros got the Eagles at the 16th spot, and Ryan Fowler, I'm just, what are you doing, dude? Were you sleeping? Ryan Fowler's got the Philadelphia Eagles at the number 3 spot for starting ranked defense, but yet has the Texans and Seattle in double digits? You know what I mean? Come on, man. Are you just trying to get a rise out of people like me? Because it's working. The Indianapolis Colts, just for shits and giggles, let's check out the Colts here. 28 for ESPN with Matt Berry, 26 over at Fantasy Pros. Hey, Ryan Fowler, number 11. Thanks, bud. Hey, Indianapolis Colts. At least we don't suck like the Jets, the Dolphins, or the Seattle Seahawks. All right, moving on to our mock draft. This is what you guys have been coming for, and it's legit. It is legit. We did 5 rounds, okay? I'm not going to go through all 10 rounds. We just want to get some data. We want to get some hard evidence data as to who's being drafted, when they're being drafted, and why you want to draft them in that position. Now, before we get started, hope you guys are enjoying the draft kit video today. I want to make this a weekly video, but I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to wait for the actual season to start. The Hall of Fame game, Shrine game opener with the Indianapolis Colts and the Green Bay Packers in Indianapolis is coming up tomorrow. So I'm excited to see how our second string and third string are looking, and vice versa for Aaron Rodgers and company. So I'm really pumped to see that game tomorrow. I'm really excited. Pumped for the Hall of Fame game. It should be a lot of fun. Now, 2016 mock draft. This was over at NFL.com. This was a live draft with other thinking, light human beings. Now, there's a lot of scenarios in here that I want to cover, and I want to get you prepared for the scenario that you're inevitably going to be coming across here in the next coming weeks. We have the 2016 NFL.com mock draft. I was awarded with the second pick. So this is a scenario for the second pick here. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to be running a lot of mock drafts to get more data and a more consensus on who's going when and where. Now, I'm going to give you my ideologies and tactics of a proper draft. For starters, do not draft a quarterback in the first round. It will ruin the entire draft. If you're playing an online draft, an auction draft, PPR, a live draft, and that's what we're doing next Friday. My 10-man live draft is next Friday, and we're having pulled pork, we're having baked beans, we're having deep fried breaded turkey balls. Yes, you heard me correct. We're going to have turkey nuts. It's like breaded mushrooms. It's just like breaded mushrooms. Anyways, let's just say, I'm not shitting you either. Anyways, so let's just say that live draft, you know, with a big board and everybody's got to go up and put their sticker on it, and it takes like 6.5 hours for 10 rounds. It takes a while, and there's a lot of people getting drunk, including myself. Now, with this draft coming up, I'm going to tell you who I drafted last year. Last year I had the first number 1 overall pick, and I went with Le'Veon Bell, knowing that he had a 4-week suspension. I was going to work with that. I was going to pick up in my second round another running back, which ended up being Arian Foster, which bit me in the ass in week 3, and ultimately had to make a trade for my Emmanuel Sanders for Eddie Lacy, which both of them flopped. Eddie Lacy was the biggest flop of 2016. Emmanuel Sanders was another big flop, but it wasn't his fault. It was poor production from Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, I don't know how that, you know what I mean? Look what Brock Osweiler do. You owe a lot to Brock, bro, and that defense, okay? Brock carried your ass through almost 3/4 of the season, Peyton, and here you are retiring at the highest pedestal of the ivory tower. Congratulations to you, but you owe a lot of it to Brock, and you know it, man. Now, with that said, okay, it was a great trade, but poor production from both Eddie Lacy and Emmanuel Sanders. So I was hurting all season long. I had my Arizona Cardinals defense. They saved me so much. They got me out of, 50 burgers left and right from that defense. 2 pick sixes, a punt return, 2 strip sacks. All of those are ching, 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 ching. So defenses are underrated. And yes, kickers are players too. Don't forget about your kickers. You want good matchups. In order, and you know what? You don't really want to draft a kicker, okay? You want yes, draft a kicker, but don't worry about it if you don't get a good kicker, okay? Because kickers are ultimately changed every week. You want a kicker based on the matchup. You want your kicker based on the quarterback's performance. That's what you want to do with kickers. You want to have a good matchup from a good football, a good offense, because you want somebody who's going to get a lot of touchdowns, okay? So say a good matchup would be the New York Giants going up against the a good team, the Patriots. So the Patriots is going to run all over, okay, the New York Giants. You're going to want the Patriots kicker. You're going to want a kicker for an offense that's going to score very high that week based on a good matchup and ideal conditions. That's how you use kickers. Now, moving on to my defense. I had the Cardinals defense. I picked up Calvin Johnson, Megatron, and the only time I used him was on Thanksgiving. And I think that's how everybody uses Calvin Johnson, also known as Megatron, is every year on Thanksgiving, that guy goes berserk, man. It's awesome. He'll get you a 30 burger every year for Thanksgiving. Not anymore. And we're going to talk about my last draft pick in today's video and why I picked him, which should make sense now that I mentioned it now. So you're already thinking who I picked for my number 7 spot. Now, let's just say that after Calvin Johnson, he's officially retired, I always had him in my flex spot. I had Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant. Yeah, I ran with the back-to-back combo all year long, and Martavis was a hit or miss. You can count on him for 7 most of the season. You can count on him for 10 most of the season. Nothing more than that. My running core was awful. Like I said, I had Le'Veon Bell. I got, 2 weeks out of Le'Veon Bell, 2 active weeks, 4 weeks suspension. He played 2 games and then busted his ACL in week 8. So, Arian Foster, he was gone in week 3. And I had to use Eddie Lacy, so I made some changes onto the waiver wire. I ended up picking up Tim Hightower from the New Orleans Saints, and when Mark Ingram got hurt, and I ended up picking up David Johnson when Chris Johnson got hurt. So Tim Hightower and David Johnson single-handedly won my fantasy playoff football championship. It was fantastic. And none other, I ran with Drew Brees and Kirk Cousins through the entire season. And here's the best part, is the 1 week I benched Drew Brees, who was going up against the New York Giants. Drew Brees put up a 60 plus burger. He put up a 60 burger. I think it was like 64 points, 6 touchdowns. Eli Manning put up almost 60 points too. But guess who I played? I played Kirk Cousins, who damn near put up 60 points as well. There were 3 quarterbacks in week 13 or week 12. I don't remember. But in one of those weeks, there were 3 quarterbacks that put up 150 points. That's nuts. That is offensive. That's some offensive games right there. Now, we're going to get started with this mock draft. I gave you the rundown of my players that I used last year. I've given you all of the numbers that I have coming from Matt Berry over at ESPN, FantasyPro.com, and Ryan Fowler over at Fox Sports. We ran down the quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers, the tight ends, the defenses. Now it's time for our mock draft. And this is just one consensus data draft. That's all this is. For the first draft pick of the 2016 mock draft NFL.com season are going to Antonio Brown. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. It's either going to be Antonio Brown or Adrian Peterson. And I want you guys to be prepared. Okay? I want you to be prepared. Now, if running backs go in the first round, okay, keep picking them until it changes. Don't be the first guy to change. That's when you start screwing up the draft. Okay, so let's just take a look at this. Number 1, Antonio Brown. Number 2, I had the 2nd round draft pick, so I'm going to follow suit. Okay, I'm going to grab OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. Julio Jones goes into the number 3 spot. This is where things start to change. Todd Gurley goes in the number 4 spot. Essentially meaning Todd Gurley is a 1st round draft pick, with Adrian Peterson following in 5th, Ezekiel Elliott in number 6th, and so essentially you got Todd Gurley, Adrian Peterson, and Ezekiel Elliott holding in the top 3 positions of your 2016 fantasy draft, and or you have Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham, and Julio Jones going in your first 3 picks of your 2016 fantasy football season. Now, what I'm meaning is if you're in a 6th spot to 1. 1 through 6. You're golden to have an all-star, to have a rock star. You're golden. Now, for the guys who's coming in at 7th, 8th, and 9th, and 10th, I'm really disappointed for this number 7th pick, Aaron Rodgers. It goes to Aaron Rodgers. I was really disappointed. This guy was the asshole of the draft. Don't be that asshole, okay? Don't do it. Just do not. It's unorthodox to pick quarterbacks. When you pick a quarterback in the first round, 99% of the time, you're not going to win. I have never seen one person pick a quarterback in the first round and win their playoff fantasy football season. Not one, okay? Don't do it. Now, moving into the number 8 spot, David Johnson, okay? Number 9, Rob Gronkowski, and number 10, DeAndre Hopkins of the Houston Texans. Now, what did we learn in this first draft, first round? You got 4 running backs that went, you have 4 receivers that went, you have 1 tight end that went, and you have 1 quarterback that went. All All-Stars, all top 10 players. And if you look at NFL.com Top 100, only 25% of these top 10 players are even on the top 100 or top 10. And the consensus is telling me that these players are picking out of fanboys. And I'm going to show you that here in just a little bit. Moving into the number 11 spot, Devontae Freeman. Number 12, we got Lamar Miller. Number 13, we got Jamal Charles. So, in the first quarter of the second round, we have 3 more running backs going out of the gate. Now, 14th, 15th, and 16th. This is really interesting. We got 3 more receivers running out of the gate. Jordy Nelson, number 14. Number 15, A.J. Green. Number 16, Allen Robinson. Number 17, Dez Bryant. And so that's 4. And then number 18 goes C.J. Anderson of the Denver Broncos. He's going to get a huge workload this year. You guys know he's going to get a huge workload because Paxton is just, you know what I mean? He can't be trusted yet. He cannot be trusted yet. We have to see him in action. And we're going to see him in the preseason. Now, I've got my number 19 spot. Okay, this is the Serpentine. So I'm going to get 19th and 22nd pick. I'm going to get 2 picks within 4 picks. Number 19, Mark Ingram. Boom. There you go, folks. I've got OBJ, I've got Mark Ingram. There's my RB1 and my wide receiver 1 taken care of. Done for the season. I don't have to worry about it. Now, Ben Roethlisberger goes in the number 20 spot. This is how I can prove that you fanboys are out there drafting your team. Okay? Do not do that. If we go back and look at quarterbacks, we got a Ben Roethlisberger with an 8, 6, and 3. Now, this guy just got drafted. Ben just got drafted in the number 20 spot. Now remember, Aaron Rodgers is at number 7. No quarterbacks have come out. So this guy, number 20, is drafting Ben Roethlisberger. Do you realize that you have Carson Palmer, you have Drew Brees, you got Tom Brady, you got Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck? So you're going to pick Ben Roethlisberger over all of those All-Stars. And don't get me wrong, Ben Roethlisberger is an all-star. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's got Antonio Brown. His entire offense all are fucking high as a kite. Okay, so I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. So obviously, number 20, Ben Roethlisberger, you're a Pittsburgh fan. Do not draft your team because you're going to have a nightmare on Sundays. Because when your fantasy football team sucks, that means your real team sucks. Vice versa. When your real team sucks, your fantasy football team sucks. Don't do it. It's a conflict of interest. Do not do it. Number 21, Le'Veon Bell. And I can prove this guy's a Pittsburgh fan because he's the last draft pick. Okay? 20 and 21 is the Serpentine. 20 and 21, he went with Ben Roethlisberger and Le'Veon Bell. He's drafting his Pittsburgh Steelers dream team. That's what he's doing. Don't do it, folks. You're not going to win. You're not going to win. That's all I'm going to say. Moving on, I got my Serpentine shot with Cam Newton. So we got a great shot. We got Odell Beckham, we got Mark Ingram, and we got our number 1 quarterback according to our consensus data. Cam Newton is going to have a stellar year this year. He's going to be hungry. Kelvin Benjamin is back, and everybody's healthy. This is going to be a fantastic year this year. Mike Evans coming in at number 23. Doug Martin coming in at number 24. Amari Cooper coming in at 25. Fantastic year, Amari Cooper. Brandon Marshall, number 26 spot. And I want to talk about Brandon Marshall and I want to talk about Antonio Brown real quick. These 2 guys have a bet, a season-long bet on who can get the most yards this year out of, and it's a friendly bet. And I'm going to tell you how friendly in just a second. So Brandon Marshall and Antonio Brown officially have a bet of who can score the most yards in the 2016 regular season. Do you know what the prize is? Pink slips. Do you know what pink slips are? Let's just say that Antonio Brown owns a 2016 $500,000 Bentley, and Brandon Marshall owns, I think, like a $400,000 Porsche 911, like limited edition Porsche 911, man. They're going to trade off their car. One who loses gets the car over, gives the pink slips. Fantastic. So in other words, we're going to see a lot of production from Antonio Brown and Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall's really establishing a rapport with Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's really starting to fit into that Jets offense. It's really starting to look good. If you can get Brandon Marshall and Antonio Brown on your draft, I commend you. You're going to get 60 points every week. Every week you're going to get 60 points, 30 burgers from each of them. So your wide receiver slot is taken care of. You can dump a tight end or another running back onto your flex spot. Now, moving on. Eddie Lacy coming at number 27. Eddie Lacy, you're lucky you came out in this third round, because I wouldn't pick you up in the fourth round. You're eating too many donuts, man. Too many donuts. Get in shape, bro. Get in shape. Number 28, Sammy Watkins, who's going to have a great year. Tyrod Taylor is really, Rex Ryan is really getting into the groove. That offense is starting to come together. Sammy Watkins is going to have a phenomenal year this year. Russell Wilson, number 29, and Drew Brees. We got back-to-back quarterbacks going out at the end of the third round. Number 31, Jarvis Landry. He was arguably one of the greatest sleeper pickups of last year, but fell short, obviously because of Ryan Tannehill and his lack of production. Ryan, you had a great rookie year. You're just slowly going downhill, man. You need to get your shit together. Come on, get back into that offense. You gotta want it. You gotta want it. Now, Alshon Jeffrey, going back to the Chicago Bears and Jay Cutler. Screw you, Jay. I don't know. Alshon Jeffrey, that's going to be a tough pickup. You know, he's going to get you probably at least 9 to 10 points every week, but I don't see much more than that. I only see 5 touchdowns for Alshon Jeffrey. Jay Cutler, unless he's got the magic water, you know what I mean? I don't see Jay having anything. And Jay was so hyped up last year. Michael Irvin talking about, he's going to be MVP, they're going to the Super Bowl. And it's just like, no, they went to the toilet bowl. That's where they went, man. Moving on, Andrew Luck coming in at the number 33 spot. You know, and obviously, you didn't see me pick up Andrew Luck. I went on the numbers. You do not draft your fanboy team. Now, Keenan Allen coming in at number 34. LaShawn McCoy coming in at number 35. Demaryius Thomas coming in at 36. I got it that time. 36, Demaryius Thomas. 37, Greg Olsen. And this is when you need to start drafting tight ends, is in the 3rd and 4th round. That's where you want to get it. You snag your tight end. Greg Olsen. Now, as soon as Greg Olsen went, because I was after Greg Olsen, I was originally going to get him. Jonathan Stewart went into the 38th. I had the 39th pick. I ended up going with Jordan Reed, because remember, tight end Jordan Reed is currently 2s across the board. Fantastic pickup. He's going to be Kirk Cousins' dump-off go-to guy. He's going to be his end-zone dance man. It's going to be a great year for Jordan Reed. Martellus Bennett coming in at number 40. Doug Baldwin, Russell Wilson's deep threat. He had a fantastic second half of the year last year. Do not count out Doug Baldwin and Russell Wilson really hooking up. I can see Russell Wilson 10-plus touchdowns this year. Passing touchdowns. I can see Russell Wilson getting 15. 5 rushing touchdowns, easily. Brandon Cooks. So I got my Serpentine. I got Jordan Reed and Brandon Cooks at number 42 and 39. Travis Kelce at number 43. 44, Jerry Maclin. 45, DeMarco Murray. 46, Tyler Eifert. Carlos Hyde, 47. T.Y. Hilton, number 48. Julian Edelman, number 49. And 50th, Latavius Murray. We're going to fast forward to our 59th pick, to my Serpentine spot of 59 and 62. I went with Thomas Rawls and Golden Tate. Now let me explain to you why I went with Thomas Rawls. It's because Marshawn Lynch retired, guys. Come on. Why is he in the 5th round and the 6th round? There's no reason Thomas Rawls should be in the 6th round. You should have got him in the 3rd round. Okay, he's going to have a fantastic workload. He's going to be the workhorse of the Seattle Seahawks, and he's going to have a fantastic year this year. He's signed. He's good to go. He's going to get all of the carries that he's looking for, and he's going to get all the end zone. It's going to be Russell Wilson or Thomas Rawls getting the end zone touches. And Golden Tate. someone else who retired, Calvin Johnson. So I picked up 2 players that are filling the shoes of big workhorses, Calvin Johnson and Marshawn Lynch, with Thomas Rawls and Golden Tate. Now those are my picks for the 2016 mock draft NFL.com fantasy football season. Let's break down what we have. Our wide receiver 1, we got Odell Beckham. RB1, we have Mark Ingram. QB1, we have Cam Newton. Let's see, tight end, Jordan Reed. Our flex spot, our RB2, dang it, no, my wide receiver 2 is Brandon Cooks. My RB2 will be Thomas Rawls, and my flex spot will be Golden Tate. After this, then I'll have my Cardinals defense, and I'll have my kicker. Draft is over, and I can pick up all the nice sleepers that are under everybody's rug that they swept under and counted out. Guys, 2016 is going to be a fantastic year. Big production for a lot of teams. And to be quite honest with you, I only see like 6 or 7 teams even making it to the playoffs. Before the season is even started, I don't see a lot of teams even standing a chance. I really don't. AFC, NFC, South, East, West, North, it's going to be a big year this year for fantasy production. I'm going to be sitting here, drinking my beer, watching NFL Red Zone, and it's going to be fantastic. Going to have the ribs on the grill, going to have my jerseys on, going to be sporting my blue, going to be sporting fantasy football. And let me tell you something why fantasy football is so, and it came out in the early 90s, and it became a phenomenon when the internet came out, is because of the fact that normally you wouldn't give a rat's ass about any of these other players. You wouldn't care about any other team except for your Colts blue or your Redskin red or whatever you're rooting for, okay? You wouldn't care about any of that. But because of fantasy football, it brings in this community of players and fans alike, and you have this community, this tight-knit community of just so much joy, of supporting of all these other teams across the country that normally you wouldn't care about, and or players. Normally you wouldn't really care about. You wouldn't follow them on Twitter. You wouldn't check on their status. You wouldn't see how practice went. You wouldn't care about any of that. But because fantasy football, it's brought so many millions of people together, including myself. Folks, this has been your 2016 J-Pot Draft Kit video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the indicator of the upward thumb. I would greatly appreciate it. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, folks. Have a good year.